but I hear people bitching in big cities about not finding anyone, and I'm like, that's garbage. You have selection. It's just
So how are you dealing with that, Pebot? I assume like maybe you've encountered an experience to where culture, like the family, has been an issue. Has it ever been an issue?
yeah.
So
Yeah,
how do you deal with it?
well, I mean, it's difficult because you need to have your partner on your side. If your partner isn't on your side, then there's nothing that you can do. I mean, if your partner is going to side with their family or they're not going to defend you or protect you, then you should just walk away from that situation because it's never going to change. Um, I mean, I have had that issue, but it wasn't so much with an Asian male. I feel like Asian males generally tend to just avoid introducing you to their family or avoid mentioning you to their family at all.
Really? Why is that?
I
Yeah.
think I think because of they don't expect you to be around, I assume, because you're not what falls into the category of what's correct for them.
Hmm. And that's happened to you too as well, Mozzie?
Um. Well, not having been in a relationship, no, not really. But I'm lucky enough that my parents, my family is very supportive and accepting of any guy that I will eventually bring up. Um. Here, it really depends to what you said about Italy, because if you really think about it, Italians are a big mesh of ethnicities too, like going back to the history of the country. So, but yeah, there's still a feeling of us and them. Not really versus. Depends on your political views. The thing is that it depends really on the views of each. I don't feel like generalizing too much in this case. I've seen many AMWF couples in Italy, like online, maybe on YouTube. They have channels or stuff like that. Some blow up, some work. It depends on the individual situation. I remember there was one, the guy was from Korea. He didn't have any, like they were young and they weren't married or anything. So he only had a visa. So he could stay here only for 3 months and then had to go back. And then maybe a few months passed and she would go back and go to Korea for 3 months and stuff like that. So it was a very hard situation to maintain, and they ended up splitting up.
Hmm.
Uh, it depends really on the situation. Um, but I feel like among all the yeah, what you said about Asian guys not actually present like introducing the eventual white girls to the family. I've been told by one guy that here it's mostly like the girls can date whoever they want. They have more freedom, and the guys, the Asian guys, have stricter rules because they have to maintain the family surname and the family lineage uh, pure, so they have stricter rules and like that. Um, so it depends. Yeah, I don't have any particular personal experience because again, I don't have much dating experience.
So how does that make you feel, as a white female when you are in that situation to where you have like attractive like emotional or physical feelings for another male, so in this case Asian male, but they aren't showing you or introducing you to their family? Like how are you feeling? How does that make you feel?
I mean, basically, it makes me feel like they're not planning to keep me around. So it kind of makes you feel like garbage. So it's not a good feeling. Um, obviously.
I mean, unless
So,
they were upfront about not being much in contact with their family at all, yeah.
like, how much do they care about you if they don't want you to meet their family? How much do, or if they don't stand up to their family for you? If that's the case, then they're not really like invested in you the same way you might be invested in them. And that's hurtful. I mean, generally any relationship, it's hurtful when there's someone you really care about and they're not as like vested in you as you are in them,
So when
you
when
know.
when is it like a good time? Um, I don't know if that's a right way to say it, but when do you think, as a female, is it a good time to learn to let go and not keep chasing after that, you know, hopefulness?
I think that's a really difficult thing to answer because I think for every relationship it might be different. You have to give certain leniences to certain situations that might not be what are considered traditional situations. But I think that one of the biggest things to look for is if you start questioning your self-worth, it is time to get out. Period. Exclamation point. Like, if you start feeling like you are not good enough because you're not getting your needs met and they're not paying attention to you, then that is a huge, huge reason to get out because your love for yourself should trump the feelings you have for someone else. Because if they're not reciprocating and they're not there for you, then that means that they don't care. I mean, there's something, I don't remember where I heard it, but it's very true. Like, if someone wanted to be with you, they would make it happen. If they prioritized you, and in a relationship that's a romantic relationship, you should be a priority. That is hands down the truth because if you love someone, you want to see them happy and you want to support them. You want to take their burdens away from them because you want them to feel good. So if you're feeling bad, then it's not healthy. It doesn't matter how much you love someone because you need to love yourself more. That would be the number one sign I would say. Otherwise, I mean, you can look for, give yourself some deadlines. Say like, okay, well, if this doesn't happen by this time, if they don't introduce me to their family, if they don't tell me they love me, if they don't try to come visit me, or they're not trying to talk to me on the phone, or whatever. I mean, needs reassurance. We're all insecure in some way. And especially in love, if we're not used to having like what a healthy relationship feels like, and unfortunately it seems like a lot of Asian males come from an unhealthy family dynamic, then you need to have that reassurance. You need to know like this person still cares about me because just because you said you cared about them like a month ago or 2 or 3 months ago, that doesn't mean you still care anymore because people's feelings change. And that honeymoon phase of any relationship is going to wear off. And then
Hmm.
you're going to be left with reality. And if you can't deal with that reality, then people just pull away or walk away, or they're afraid to be intimate and they pull away as well. But that's not fair to the person that's just waiting there, waiting for them to come back and be intimate. Be like, what happened to this person who said they cared about me so much and now they've just disappeared? That you have to think about yourself. That's that is the bottom line because you have to have a partner who wants to be there for you and who is willing to share their burdens with you if you want a romantic if you want a romantic partner. I mean, I guess if you don't, that's fine. I mean, people find different meanings in their life and whatnot, but as far as when it's time for me to walk away, those are times when I have to move on.
Uh, yeah, everything she said. If they make you feel like you owe something to them, eh, you don't know shizzles to nobody. Um, all the usual stuff, toxic, gaslight. I have a friend who, like, we keep talking about her ex constantly because the relationship was so toxic from the beginning, but she finally got out of it only after a year or so. Like, so we keep talking about it and say don't do those mistakes again. Keep it as a lesson. I was thinking, to be honest, about maybe one of a reason why there's such an attachment to family. I could think of one reason, which is very practical, to be honest, but I only can talk for like because I've heard that it's like this in Korea and Japan. I'm not sure, and I don't want to speak for other countries. Uh, the like the retirement system is not very good, very well developed there. So if you don't save for yourself during your youth and your middle age, you end up with very little money in your old age, and you end up having to rely on your family a lot. And so that's one of the reasons why the mindset is still very much I'm gonna have children, so I'll have someone who can take care of me when I'm older, because otherwise I'll be in a very dire situation. While in other countries, maybe the the system is different. You can have a decent life even in your old age, health permitting. Like you don't have to rely on someone else. So if you want to have children, you'll have them for other reasons. Um, to be honest, when I think about my situation, I don't want to have kids at this moment. But I'm also in a situation where I'll probably end up going to like retiring at 80 if I'm lucky. So I don't know. I don't really think about the future at this moment, otherwise I'll start crying. I don't feel like procreating just so you have someone taking care of you is good enough for a reason to have
Yeah.
children, to be honest.
Here in the States, for example, we're born and raised as far as like those have been, born and raised here. It's like, you go to school, your grade schooling, and then go to college, and then you move out, and then you become independent, right? Whereas
Hmm.
In Japan, it is where, it is true where people will have to live with their families because of how expensive it really is in Japan. It's very hard to live on your own in Japan because of the cost of living, especially if you're dealing with an Asian male that is from, let's say, for example, Japan, that is in that background. Because I know, Peapot, you did bring up before about a guy that lives with their mom. How do you go about that situation, to whereas someone is so focused on their family because that's where they were from?
I don't know. I think it depends on the dynamic of the family. What they're willing to do and what they're willing to not do. I think that couples, especially young couples, do need a certain amount of privacy to establish intimacy. And having family with you all the time makes that kind of impossible. So I think there is a certain period of time where they need to be away. Although I do understand as parents become older and they need help, you should already have your dynamic established, and you could probably still have time alone together, even if you, let's say, have like an in-law living with you. But I think it does put strain on the relationship, and that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. Like I said, like if it's a young relationship, there needs to be time with just the people that are in the relationship,
Hmm.
because I think that the attachment, the intimacy, the bond that has to form would suffer because you have that external parental influence, which is going to influence, one partner or the other in one way, whether it be male or female, whoever's family is actually living in the place with them. So I think there are exceptions, obviously. Like, let's say your parent is dying and they're dying young. Like, okay, um, then you want to let your someone that you love be with their parent until their parent, passes or whatever. But um, I think in a young relationship, it's very difficult to do that successfully because of interference, and you will be put on the back burner. And at that time, when the relationship is new and young and forming, you don't want to be on the back burner. You need to be the focus because you're establishing that connection and that long-term sustainability in your relationship.
Depends on your views on families, to be honest. Because like I'm of the the saying, blood is thicker than water. It's often misused because it's like the full version would be the blood of the battlefield is thicker than the water of the womb. So like uh, friends and like the relationships that you create for yourself are more intense than the just the blood relations that you have with someone. That's
Mhm.
a thing that I go by a lot. Like family is not just blood; it's also relationships and feelings. Um, Here in Italy, yeah, family is still a very important institution. In my case, I have troubles with currently with a member of my family that I don't feel anything positive for anymore, but I still keep them close because of obligations that my parents feel towards that person, and I do love my parents, so I sustain and help them because they feel an obligation because of blood, but I don't. I'm just there because of the love for my parents, not because I feel obligations. Um, when you think about like a couple living with the parents of one of the two persons in the couple, it's usually, yeah, on in the relationship, on with the age, it's usually the parents living with the couple, not the couple living with the parents. I do agree. Early in the relationship, when the couple is still young, they do need space. It might not be strictly by living alone together. It can work other ways. Like my parents, they never lived together before marrying. They just went out a lot together, like out of the house. But they did live, like when they married, they moved together, and they did have 6 years of marriage before me. So I think that was their young couple phase, maybe. And then when I was born, my maternal grandma moved in the apartment below us. So then there was the introduction of one of the parents. But yeah, it depends on your views on family. If you feel like you feel any obligations, it's gonna be harder. And I've seen that in many Asian cultures, there's a lot of obligations that they feel, even if they didn't, like, yeah, they're ingrained, and since they're born and they grow up with these obligation ingrained.
Hmm. Now, so like as Asian male, white female continue to grow, as interracial, marriages and couples and such like that. What do you think the future brings when raising kids as an AMWF couple?
Um, I think it's important to maintain traditional cultural values from both parents. I think I think tradition is a really beautiful thing in general. And that's something that I would like to preserve if I have children. My husband's culture or my partner's culture, or even if I don't have a husband or a partner, let's say I have a child, I would try to learn about my child's culture, like where their half came from, and I would try to incorporate that into raising them because I feel like culture is a big part of what makes us human. It's not necessarily what separates us because there's so many overlaps and similarities in culture. And we kind of see more similarities by holding on to those things than by letting them go. I just feel like that's something that's important. Um, and making sure that they understand, like, that they should view everyone as an individual versus a race or a culture themselves. Um,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that a lot of people have to offer and to give each other. They just have to get to know each other. Like, you're not just this person that looks different from me. You are a person all by yourself, and so am I.
Hmm.
And you need to teach your child to love themselves and to appreciate both sides of themselves, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of mixed children saying, "Oh, I don't feel either this side or this side. I feel split in the middle, so it's very hard for me to fit in groups and stuff like that, especially when they're growing up." I do feel like, yeah, maintaining both cultures is very important, even like linguistically wise. Would be very cool to teach to the child both languages of origin. Um, can be useful. Um, yeah, it's a matter of trying to though reassure them that they belong to both, because I've seen many that say, "Oh, I don't belong to either," because for example, I'm too white to be Asian and I'm too Asian to be white. So in the end, they don't feel like they belong to either culture,
But
while
that can
they
happen
do
to
belong to
anyone.
both.
Like, let's say
I'm
you're
sorry?
white. I think that can happen to anyone, especially when I was in school. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I don't think that that necessarily has to do with race or culture. I think that has to do with the other people that are around you and how they
Yeah.
make you feel. So if you have other people that are of mixed races or cultures, then that's not a thing. Like, no one's gonna care because everyone's the same.
No, I just meant in case they encounter people who make them feel like they don't belong, just to be there for them and reassure them that they do belong to both.
I think sometimes we like tunnel vision too much on culture that we kind of forget about the other details, different dynamics of the relationship. Sometimes maybe in like a relationship, it's just too much of, oh, this is how my family culture is, and that's all they like really think about is so much about their family culture versus like your family culture.
Anytime two people get together, you make your own culture. So if you're bringing in two different cultures, then you mix them together and you make your own culture. You bring in the parts that you like and maybe some things that you don't agree with, you don't necessarily have to bring in. But you make your own home culture and you make your own family culture. So if someone is adamant that it has to be this way, then that's obviously not a very good partner because they're not listening to what your needs or your wants are as well. Relationships are compromise. If you can't compromise, then you have basically nothing to go on other than one person being smashed down and the other person doing everything, and that's not a healthy relationship.
Sometimes Asian males will will use that as a crutch, as a reason why like a lot of relationships will fail is because of culture. I feel like it's as a self pity kind of thing. I don't know if that's a good way to word it, but I feel as if it's like a self pity kind of thing to as like an excuse, right?
I mean, if you want to give so much importance to culture, then date within your own culture. If you want to date outside of your culture, there's
Mixed,
gonna end up being some clashing, maybe, with again, culture against culture. But if you're gonna give so much importance to culture, then don't date outside of your culture.
culture and family kind of goes together, right?
Yeah, can.
Yeah.
With K-pop on the ruse, right? With K-pop being, you know, BTS. What does this bring to Asian males in general?
Mozzie looks
Should I?
excited, so you go first.
Not excited actually. To be honest, it's a big point because as I said, one of the triggers, if you want to call that, was K-pop, and I do listen to K-pop. So I might be like Asian guys, if they find out that I do enjoy and listen to K-pop, they might say, "Oh, you like me just because you listen to K-pop. I'm not Korean. I'm something else. You don't stop being such a Korea bore stuff." Like, yeah, there are some girls out there who fetishize Korean men specifically through the K-pop lens. I'm not like that. We are not all like that. I've found Asian guys attractive before finding out about K-pop. It's just a plus added, and I am critical about my preferences. I don't just blindly love Asian guys and don't just blindly love Asian cultures. I don't just blindly love K-pop. I know there are some dark sides in these things, and I keep my mind critical and open. Um, on one side, it's a good thing because it's bringing the idea and the concept that Asian men can be sexy, can be masculine, can be talented around the world, and BTS in particular specifically have a very positive self-love message that they bring around, and it's very important for it to be transmitted, especially with younger generations. uh, Sadly, some people misuse the good things that like the good that they're doing, and just tarnish it, and like just look at goddamn Ollie London and what he's doing. There's bad and good people in every culture and in every side of the world. Let's just remember that the K-pop industry is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. It's a different music industry than the Western one that we're used to. We gotta keep a critical eye. Take the good and be critical about the bad. It's a slippery slope. But same goes for anime and manga and like, yeah, there are, me for example, there are people who start with anime and then they end up in the Japanese drama territory, like live actions and stuff like that. So it's another media where you see a lot of attractive Asian people, Asian men. But you see also different cultures portrayed and maxified and extremized. You gotta be critical. You gotta be keep an open mind and be critical at the same time. Not everyone is though. That's the bad part.
What Mozzie said, I think that in general, K-pop is good because it does like bring to light that hey, Asian men can be hot. There you go. So women might start looking at Asian men in a more sexual manner versus just like what Hollywood has made them like, you know. Um, but at the same time, I think it can fetishize Asian men in general. Like I had a friend who told me, yeah, I mean, like when I wanted to hook up with he was a Chinese man. But anyway, he told me that he could just go to a BTS concert and if he said he was Korean, he could basically get laid. But if he didn't say he was Korean,
Oh
you know, that didn't
God.
happen, which is like mind-boggling. It's like, oh, you're Korean, I'm gonna sleep with you. Like, how is that? I don't understand how that functions in the brain.
Like,
So it can fetishize Asian men and they, oh, like Koreans are better than all other Asian men. And no, that's not true at all. So it's good in a way because you get that attention, like Mozzy was saying. But it's also bad in a way because like only certain particular groups might get that attention just
mhm,
because they're fetishized. It's not because of who they are, it's what they are. And then they become a commodity, like a thing. So let
mhm.
me collect all the Korean men, like versus like just actually liking someone and wanting to be with them. It's a
Funny
complete
enough, I haven't been with a Korean man yet, so guess it doesn't work.
yeah. I mean, they're not say like Chinese men, and I don't really, it's everyone's like an individual basis. It's not like one thing or another, but I mean, any kind of anything has its pitfalls, especially fame. Fame in general, no matter where you're famous at, I think can be detrimental to mental health or any of those things. So
No,
that's
don't get me
certainly
started on mental health and K-pop.
because BTS is because they're big, they're known. People are going to get more exposure than, let's say, you were saying like anime and stuff. Like people who like anime like anime. It's like a niche. But if you BTS is played on mainstream radio, so you get it no matter what. So it's a little bit more of an in your face sort of thing versus like the niche of like anime or games or things of that nature. So I think that it does bring Asians more into light as far as from a full Western perspective.
Yeah. There's like a stereotype about like looking like lady boys, right? The stereotype of, oh, BTS are like lady boys. Oh, okay, so if a white female likes an Asian guy, oh, that's because they're into lady boys.
I'm not with the topic of lady boys. I've
Uh,
never heard it before.
to, I've never
So
I know the word, I know the concept of ladyboys, but to be honest, I've always only heard it referred to the trans community in Thailand, to be honest.
Or just looking more
Other than that,
more feminine,
feminine.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say
It
yeah.
goes back to the topic we were discussing earlier. It's goddamn 2021. Uh Men don't need to be burly and hairy and muscular to be considered attractive. They can also have softer features, they can wear makeup, and they can wear more stylish clothes, and they can still be considered attractive as a straight man to a straight woman. The straight relationship doesn't need to be burly, hairy, brute man and delicate feminine female. It doesn't have to be like that anymore.
basically
And
into gender roles, if you think that men can't wear makeup or men can't dress a certain way, you go back to gender roles and stereotypes. And if
yeah,
anything, I would think that the way sexuality is moving forward worldwide is that we're trying to get from those stereotypes. So I feel like that term is just, it's like a dumb term because, like,
yeah,
if men want to wear makeup, they can wear makeup. I mean, men used to wear makeup, men used to wear heels, men used to wear dresses.
They used to wear
And like,
wigs all the time. Well, I mean, yeah.
yeah, there were wigs. I mean, and then we got away from this and it became such a masculine, feminine thing. And it's like
yeah,
men can do whatever they want, just like women. Women wear pants now. Men can wear dresses. Why not? I mean, it's like if you're gonna be happy, that doesn't mean that you're gay just because you want to wear a dress.
yeah.
So
There's sadly there's that middle step into accepting uh, a certain kind of look for men. Yeah, where it only means you're gay. No, straight men can wear makeup, be stylish, have softer features, even do drag. There are straight drag queens, for goddamn sake. Uh,
True.
it's not about sexuality, it's about self expression. And they're all goddamn beautiful. When they feel confident, when they feel beautiful, they are beautiful. It's about what makes you happy. If wearing makeup as a guy makes you happy, then wear it and you look fantastic. If you want to wear a wig and wear heels as a straight man and you feel happy about it, you look fantastic. Um, yeah, it's about gender roles. It's about like avoid like let's just skip that middle step in which yeah you can wear that but it makes you gay. No, you can wear whatever you want. You'll be you and you look fantastic.
Do you think that brings confidence like levels down to other Asian males because oh, I'm not Korean, so I don't think I'll be able to date good-looking women because I'm not Korean.
I think it from what I have heard guys talk about is like, oh, I'm Korean, but I'm not a pretty boy type of Korean. Like it's not necessarily about being Korean, it's about being pretty like the Korean boys versus actually being Korean.
It's
That,
about being Korean and looking like an idol.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
But I mean, I don't necessarily I can't speak for men in that regard because it can play to their insecurities, but they can also use it to their advantage. They don't necessarily have to tell someone that they're potentially interested in if they're Korean or not. They don't have to really discuss that until like they get to know someone to see if they're worth their time. So you can use it to your advantage, I think, but it also depends on someone's frame of mind. If someone already is a defeatist frame of mind, they're gonna think, well, I can't even try. But if someone else is like, well, hey, now girls are looking at Asian men and they're like more into them, so maybe, I'm gonna give it a go now. So you can go both ways on it, I think.
Yeah, let's just hope they don't meet Korea boos.
So, what makes an Asian male white female relationship successful in your eyes? What makes it so successful?
I think they're just like any other relationship. There has to be communication, there has to be trust, there has to be a mutuality where it's like a give and take, and you both provide the support for each other. There definitely has to be respect of boundaries and of interests and everything like that. So I don't think an Asian male white female relationship is any different from any other relationship. I think that it's just about two people deciding they want to be together and both making efforts to make it work.
With more interracial couples, it does essentially help out the growth of Asian male white female be more prominent. Not prominent, but just more out there. If that makes sense. Like, kind of like what we talked about earlier. That you'll get some stares, from people like, "Oh wow, you're walking with a Chinese dude or a Vietnamese dude or a Korean dude, right?" But you think with more successes of these AMWF relationships, less and less people would be prone to have like or like be worried about people staring at them because there are people that do get worried or are subconscious about how view them when they're walking out in public.
The
Depends.
couples that I've seen work, actually, the AMWF couples that I've seen work online, at least, of course, weren't really focused on looking for other instances of AMWF to find self confidence. They were just going for it and being in a relationship and making it work. And then, though, they maybe started to broadcast it with a YouTube channel, with a streaming channel of other kinds. But they only initially, if the ones that truly work, they only initially focus on cultural differences and like make focused videos on being AMWF. But if they keep going, they'll eventually just make videos about random things like we're buying a house or we're having a like we're cultivating vegetables in our garden or we're going to the restaurant to eat this thing today. They don't make AMWF focused videos anymore, only initially. Like they do make some at the beginning. Yeah, they don't really focus on that. And they say often that they weren't looking for like videos of confirmation while in the initial stages of their relationships. They were just thinking about, we're in a relationship, we're trying to make this work.
Mhm.
Just go for it.
I think someone is too worried about what everyone else is thinking about them, then they're not going to really be happy in any situation they're in because they're performing instead of acting on their own instincts and heart. I think that people will always get looks depending on where they are. You're in a region that there's going to be a predominant race of X, Y, or Z, and you are with a different race or culture, you're always going to get looks. That's never going to go away. And bringing to light more interracial couples or intercultural couples, I don't think necessarily will make that go away either because a lot of the places where you see these things are online. So you're already going to a particular generation that's going to be seeing it. Now, let's say by the time we're all old and we're like grandparents, or even if we're not grandparents, but grandparent age, whatever, there might be a lot more tolerance of that because time is going to mix people more and more. But I think depending on where you are in the world, you're always going to have people that give you looks because you're always going to have those people that want to be pure, that want to be separated, that want to be with their own kind. You're always going to have people like that. I don't think that's ever going to go away.
Yeah, I don't think it'll ever go away either. But as you said, I do agree with as time goes on, it's only going to get better, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I
If
definitely.
everyone stays open minded, that's the thing. And if we have a huge paradigm shift backwards, like we just recently did in the US, um, then things might get worse again because generally with history, things cycle. You get something happen and then you move ahead, and then 50 years later, you move backwards again. It doesn't make any sense. So I don't know if that is something that might happen, which hopefully will not. You want to
Ain't
progress as
that
a
fun?
species, not regress as a species, but
You never know.
you don't know what humans are going to do.
That is so true. I wanted to talk about present time too. Dealing with like COVID. COVID can be a pretty, a pretty hot topic, right? It's a little spicy, but has it made it difficult on your side of the spectrum to approach an Asian male because of COVID, or do you think vice versa because of COVID stipulations?
I heard that there has been, I mean, obviously, the news has shown there is like a definite increase in Asian hate crimes.
Hmm.
Um, Honestly, it hasn't affected me at all because I don't live in an area that has a lot of Asians, so I don't really get chances to do that. And because of COVID, I don't go out anymore. I now that I'm vaccinated, I went on a trip, but I stayed masked up everywhere unless I was just eating with people that I also knew were vaccinated or like alone in a house with people that were vaccinated. Like I keep masking everywhere I go. And so I don't think it has really made much of a difference. I mean, my online life, well, my life is online now on Discord. So I get all my social interactions on Discord basically. So if anything, I mean, like because I've been on this particular server and I've been on some other servers, um, I've met more Asian males that way because there's none in my area. So if anything, I guess maybe it's helped me look beyond where I live, dating wise, but it hasn't really affected or impacted my dating life because there's no one to really date where I am.
So,
Feel that.
I have seen this topic quite often in the Asian male community about location just being a huge problem. They're like, well, there's just, there's just no luck out here, so they feel hopeless. Do you think that's like Asian males just kind of exaggerating too much about where they live at, or do you think it's just like it is true in the sense to where location really does matter?
I think it's both. I think that location matters to an extent, but location is also what you make of it. So if you go out with an attitude that you're going to be successful, then you're going to be successful. If you go out with an attitude that no one's gonna want you, no one's gonna want you. Like you have to think about things in a positive light to make them work. I mean, there are some places where there's like small towns and there's no one around at all. You know, like where I live, it's mostly old people. There's not really a lot of people my age, and a lot of them are just old and white Americans. And there's not really a lot of diversity here, restaurant wise or anything.
We can
But
only guess where you live, right?
yeah, just guess, just guess. But but I think that if someone still makes the effort, they can be happy anywhere. Like the leader. But I hear people bitching in big cities about not finding anyone, and I'm like, that's garbage. You have selection. It's just you think the grass is greener, but just because you move to another city doesn't mean you're going to meet someone. It's about perspective. It's about outlook.
Hmm.
You know, if someone's going to be confident, it's fine. You know what? I saw a TED talk with this Asian man who said that he was so terrified of getting rejected, and so like he never did anything. And he did like a challenge for himself where he went for like 100 days. He would ask people ridiculous things that he knew he would be rejected for just so he could get used to rejection. And he said it made him actually be so much better with it and willing to take chances and have more confidence to like go out and be rejected, because it's frame of mind. You can be like like the thing, you can be doing the most boring thing ever, but if you're with the right company, it doesn't feel boring. You can be at the most fun place ever, and with the wrong company it can feel like so boring and awful and you just want it to be over. It's the same thing about the frame of mind of like, oh, should I stay here or should I not? Like where I live, I thought, well, maybe I should leave, but at the same time I thought, well, what if I move somewhere and what do I find there? I might not find anything, so what's the point of moving? It's just like you should try to just be happy within yourself and try to like, I don't know, socialize and meet people like when you can. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
both. I think it's both.
To be honest, I'm in your same situation. Small town with just and average age is very high. It depends. Cause like if I with the attitude that I have and the willingness and the attitude that I have right now, if I lived, I don't know, in Milan or Rome, I would definitely be getting laid down much more. But on the other hand,
I like the way you put
since
that.
like most of my all of my interactions, like all the guys that I meet them online. Like I have zero confidence in person. Like I can't flirt to save my life. I think I'm still afraid of in-person rejection. So that's why I still stay online and I get the confirmation and we talk about certain things online. So when we meet, we're already on the next step and we're ready to go. And so for now, my issue is mostly just monetary. I don't have the economical means to travel a lot. And since there's not much in my area, I always have to travel a bit to find something, and to travel to the nearest big city, and hopefully they'll decide to travel to that city for me because they're also very far. Like at least 100. Like I've had to go to Rome, I've had to go to Venice sometimes. So it depends also if they still live with their parents. There's not much chance. If they decide that they can pay for a hotel room, yay for me. It's about luck. It's about location in my case. But if it wasn't for even if I was in Milan, I'd probably still be using apps. It's just that I would just find a lot more within my area, probably. But I still probably wouldn't have confident to approach guys in person. I'm still sadly very afraid of rejection. Yay for past bullying. Speaking of Corona, I feel like here the anti-Asian sentiments luckily hasn't been as harsh, as prominent. It was at the beginning, but then it died down quickly, especially because probably we've received a lot of help from China during the first waves. We've received medical equipment, medical staff, masks. We've received a lot of help from them, so the hate was kind of counterproductive. But yeah, it's also about confidence. That's as Pebot always says.
That it is.
You need you need confidence in life.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. Rising Moon will continue to bring more AMWF content, and I hope that you enjoy them.